Hi, good day to Madam NORZILAH. My name is Adi and I'm the leader from Group 7, Group Econ Fantastic, and today we'll be doing the presentation about topic 70 and 70, which is the neoclassical school. So in this topic, we'll be discussing and explain how neoclassical economists extended the economic analysis by discussing on the imperfect competition. So this is the group mate of the Econ Fantastic. We have me as Adi as a leader, and we have Kelly, Akmal, Salmah, and also Izzati. So without further ado, I will be passing to Akmal to talk about the introduction.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Nur Akmal Zawandi binti Abdul Rahman. My metric number is 286073. I am going to present my part, which is extension of economic analysis. The neoclassical school, which evolved from the marginalist tradition, is characterized by several key principles and contributions. First, emphasis on marginal analysis. The neoclassical school, like its marginalist predecessors, emphasize decision-making and price determination at the margin. This means that it focuses on the incremental changes in the decision-making and resource allocation. Second, integration of demand and supply. Unlike the earlier marginalists who tend to stress demand alone, the neoclassical school stress both demand and supply in determining the market price of goods, services, and resources. This integration provides a more comprehensive understanding of market dynamics. Third, interest in the role of money. Several neoclassical economists, such as Witzel and Fisher, took a far greater interest in the role of money in the economy than earlier marginalists. This reflects a broader understanding of the role of money in economic process. Last but not least, extension of marginalist analysis. Neoclassical economists extend marginal analysis to market structure other than pure competition, pure monopoly, and duopoly. This expansion allows for a more nuanced analysis of different market conditions. In monetary economics, Witzel, Fisher, and Hartree made significant contributions to economics by exploring an area that had been neglected but was growing in importance and by integrating money analysis into general economic theory. Firstly, these economists explored the role of money and monetary policy in the economy, an area that has been relatively neglected by earlier economists. They recognized that money and monetary policy play a crucial role in shaping economic outcomes, particularly in the context of macroeconomic stability and growth. They developed new theories and models to explain the relationship between money, price, and economic activity, and their work helped to establish the field of monetary economics. Second, Witzel, Fisher, and Hartree helped to integrate monetary analysis into general economic theory. They recognized that monetary policy cannot be analyzed in isolation from other economic factors such as production, consumption, and investment. They developed new models and frameworks that incorporate monetary analysis into broader economic analysis, helping to establish the field of macroeconomics. Overall, the contributions of Witzel, Fisher, and Hartree were twofold. Firstly, they recognized the growing importance of money and monetary policy in the economy and developed new theories and models to explain their role. Second, they help to integrate monetary analysis into general economic theory, recognizing that monetary policy cannot be analyzed in isolation from other economic factors. Their work has had a significant impact on modern economic analysis and continues to be relevant and in contemporary economic thought.
Hi, today I will present about John Gustav Witzel. He was born in 1851 and died in 1926. He was born in Stockholm, Sweden in a middle-class family. After studying mathematics, language, literature, and philosophy as an undergraduate at the University of Uppsala, He took advanced degrees in mathematics and physics there. He was elected president of the student body of the university. As a popular lecturer, he explored such social questions as the population problem, birth control, immigration, alcoholism and its causes, prostitution, the future of marriage, the right to universal suffrage, and the need for direct progressive income tax. He was both a scholar and social reformer, with such interest in social problems and reform led him to study in economics. From 1885 to 1890, he studied at universities in England, France, Germany, and Austria. There is a book that had a profound influence on his own economic thinking, which is a book of von Baumberg's on capital theory. Wicksell obtained a modest government subsidy in 1896 to begin his monetary studies in Berlin. This last contribution established Wicksell as the father of so-called Stockholm School of Economics. Wicksell's overall objective was to synthesize monetary theory, business cycle theory, public finance, and price theory into one system. Next contribution, Wicksell in monetary economics. First, analysis of the role of interest rate in achieving an equilibrium price level or in generating cumulative inflationary or deflationary movement. Second, recognition of the potential contribution of the government and the central bank in retarding or promoting price stability. And the third one is an early statement of the saving investment approach to macroeconomic equilibrium. Moving to the next slide, price level changes. To excel monetary theory, turn on one main question. Why do prices collectively rise or fall? To answer this question, he turned to an analysis of interest rates. Here, he distinguished between the normal or natural rate of interest and the bank rate. For normal or natural rate of interest, it is determined by the supply and demand for uninvested real capital. Capital is supplied by those who postpone consuming certain amounts of their income and thus accumulate wealth. The demand for capital is determined by the profit that can be made from its use, also known as marginal productivity. Natural interest rates are determined by the interaction of supply and demand. Next, bank rates. Banks create credit because they can make loans at extremely low interest rates. They are not required to lend out all of the funds placed at their disposal by savers. Thus, the bank rate of interest may be lower or higher than the normal or natural rate of interest. Let us examine each case. First case, bank rate is lower than natural rate. If the banks lend money at lower rate than natural rate, S will decrease, C will increase. Simultaneously, cost of borrowing decrease. I will increase, Y will increase, and P will also increase. The anticipation of price increase will cause prices to rise even more. Equilibrium is disturbed and cumulative upward price movement begins. The price will rise without limit as long as bank rate less natural rate. Second case, bank rate higher than natural rate. If the bank rate more than natural rate, S will increase and C will decrease. Simultaneously, cost of borrowing increase, I will decrease, Y decrease, and P will also decrease. With the price of both capital goods and consumption goods decrease, the general price level will decrease and deflation will occur. Let's move on to implication for public policy. The principal cause of cyclical fluctuation is the fact that technological and commercial progress has not maintained the same rate of advance as the increase in needs, especially of an expanding population. The rush to convert large masses of liquid capital into fixed capital produces a boom. Depression occurs when the technical improvement is already in operation and no new ones promise a profit in excess of the margin of risk. Wicksell advocate bank establish a rate of interest that either raises or lowers cumulative prices. For example, bank rate of interest same as normal or natural rate of interest. Later interest rate is the rate that supply and demand would determine if money did not exist and all lending were in good form of capital goods. The natural rate of interest is fluctuation, for instance, efficiency of production, liquid capital, and supply of labor. A growing scarcity of gold is just used to correct an overabundance. Next, forced saving. In aggregate saving and investment, Wicksell analyzed the theory of forced saving. The doctrine presented by Benham called forced fragility in his Manual of Political Economy. In analyzing the role of government in increasing capital, Benham has spoken of taxes and paper money as being forced fragility. Creating paper money is considered indirect taxation because it acts as an income tax on those people with fixed income. John Stuart Mill has stated if bankers depreciate the currency, it operates to a certain extent as a forced accumulation, which hypothesized a case in which a new enterprise was financed through a bank loan, for instance pure credit creation, without a corresponding accumulation of real capital. Assuming full employment at the outset, more land and labor would be employed in producing capital goods than if there were no credit creation to finance a new enterprise, leaving less credit available for turning out consumer goods. The demand for articles of consumption would increase rather than diminish because entrepreneurs would bid up the prices of land and labor as they expanded investment. Consequently, rise in prices entrepreneurs would acquire fewer capital goods than they originally contemplated based on the size of the loans they negotiated. At the same time, consumption would be restricted as prices rose. This enforced restriction would, in fact, constitute the real accumulation of capital that must be achieved in capital investment is to increase. The last part, Wicksell on imperfect competition. Wicksell recognized the inadequacy of the purely competitive model in retail markets, thus anticipating by several decades the theory of monopolistic or imperfect competition proposed by Edward Chamberlain and John Robinson. Wicksell wrote in 1901 that retailers can set prices because they have a fit customer base. Imperfect competition can introduce pricing power for firms, affecting their pricing strategies and profit margins. This, in turn, can influence the level of investment and aggregate demand in the economy. For example, two shops of the same kind are situated at different ends of the same street. It would be natural that their respective markets would meet in the middle of the street. Now, if a new shop of the same kind is opened in the middle of the street, or each of the others will, sooner or later, lose some of its customer to the new shop, since the people living around the middle of the street believe that if they get the same goods at the same price, they are saving time and trouble by making their purchases at the nearest shop. In this, however, they are mistaken for the original shop, which have now lost some of their customers without being able to reduce their overhead expenses. To a corresponding degree, will gradually be compelled to raise their prices, and the same applies to the new competitors who have been obliged from the beginning to content themselves with a smaller turnover. When the decrease in sales is more than proportionate to the increased profit per unit, further prices increases are disadvantageous. Fixed or overhead costs have no influence whatever in determining the most profitable monopoly price. Only variable costs are to be considered.
Hi everyone, my name is Kelly. Now I will explain the second important character in neoclassical economics under monetary economics. Irving Fisher, born February 27, 1837 at Saugerties, New York, and died April 29, 1947 at New Haven. Fisher was one of the earliest American neoclassical economics. He is a Yale University's mathematician turned economist. He was a man of many projects. He was also a pioneer in rigorous study of intertemporal choice in markets, which led him to develop a theory of capital and interest rate. Fisher was also a pioneer of econometrics, including of development of index number. His vast present output in economics, he published several highly successful mathematical textbooks. He wrote several popular books on how to be healthy and lifelong because he suffered from tuberculosis as a young man. He turned to diet and healthy fats and cultivated this interest all his life. He invented many mechanical gadgets, one of which was the visible cut index system. Fisher theories include theory of interest, quantity theory of money, and monetary policy. Rate of interest, published in 1906, Fisher first set forth his sophisticated theory of how interest rates are determined. He published a reverse and expand version of this theory in 1930 in the Theory of Interest. Fisher perceived two factors interacting to establish the interest rate, which is the impatient rate and the investment opportunity rate. The impatient rate is the extent of the community's willingness to obtain present consumption by giving out future consumption. The amount of the future consumption it is willing to trade off for present consumption depends on how impatient it is. There's negative relationship between the impatient and saving. The less impatient, the more it is willing to save and invest, thereby gaining future consumption and vice versa. When society has much present consumption relative to future consumptions, the relative value of addition amounts of present consumption is small. Investment opportunity rate is determined by real factors such as the quantity and quality of resources and the state of technology. There are two extremes. First is to use all resources to produce goods for present consumption alone, which is all present consumptions. Second is to use all resources to produce capital, so present consumption will be zero and future consumption will be large. As society moves from the first extreme to second extreme, it experiences diminishing marginal returns. When people cut back present consumption to increase the investment and thereby obtain greater future consumptions, the investment opportunity rate will fall. In Fisher words, the more we invest and postpone our gratifications, the lower the investment opportunity rate becomes, but the greater the impatient rates and vice versa. Here is more clearly to show that what I discussed just now. Equilibrium interest rate occurs when investment opportunity rate equal to impatient rates. Some people prefer to lend money while others borrow money. At interest rate equilibrium, saving equal to investment. The effect is the effect of inflation on the nominal rates of interest. Higher inflation leads to higher nominal interest rates and vice versa. Investors expect to be compensated for inflation when they lend money, so nominal interest rates tend to rise with expected inflation. Fisher point out that the real rate of interest may or may not equal to the nominal interest rate. For example, the expected rate of inflation is 5%, the real rate of interest rate is 3%, while the nominal rate of interest will be 8%. Lenders will demand 8% from the borrower. Fisher restated and amplified the old quantity theory of money based on the equations of exchange. Fisher saw 5 determinants of the purchasing power of money, or its inverse, the price level, which is the volume of currency in circulations, the velocity of circulations, the volume of bank deposits subject to check, velocity, and the volume of trade. According to Fisher version, price varies directly with the quantity of money and the velocity of circulations, and varies inversely with the volume of trades. These three relations are the most important set by Fisher because it constitutes the quantity theory of money. This is the Fisher's equation of exchange. MV plus M prime V prime equal to PT, where M equal to quantity of currency, M prime equal to quantity of demand deposits, V and V prime equal to velocity of circulations, P equal to average level of price, and T equal to quantity of good and service transacted or sold. Fisher assumed that the quantity of demand deposits M prime hold a fixed relation to the quantity of currency M because deposits are normally a relatively fixed, definite multiple of currency. There are two reasons. First is bank reserves are kept in a fixed definite ratio to bank deposits. Second is individual firms and corporations maintain fairly stable ratio between their currency and deposit balance. The velocity of circulations and the volume of trade are constant. The stability in trade also depends on full employment equilibrium because with considerable unemployment and increase in the quantity of currency M might very well increase in trade T instead of price P. Transmission mechanism through which increases or decreases in the quantity of currency cause changes in price. According to Fisher, people desire to hold a specific quantity of cash balance in relationship to their expenditure. The increase in the amount of cash in the economy disturbs this optimum ratio, causing individuals to readjust their cash to expenditure ratios by increasing expenditure. It will drive up product price in the same proportion as the increase in cash in the economy. Hence, there's a direct link between increased currency and price set by Fisher. However, which cell has direct and indirect link, which is money creation would cause changes in the bank interest rate that would set off changes in saving and investment that would eventually cause the price level to change. Next is monetary policy. There are few things discussed in monetary policy by Fisher. Firstly, Fisher believed that the primary goal of monetary policy should be to stabilize the purchasing power of money. This means that the value of money should be kept relatively constant over time so that people can be confident that their saving will not lose value due to inflation. The second thing is Fisher used index number to adjust for inflation. Index number are measure of the change in the price of goods and service over time. It could be used to ensure that wage, contracts, and other financial instruments were adjusted for inflation. Fisher proposed a monetary policy plan called the Compensated Dollar Plan. This plan has involved the government adjusting the money supply in order to keep the price level of a basket of goods and services constant in order to stabilize the economy. Lastly, Fisher also believed that interest rate could be used to influence spending and investment. He argued that higher interest rate would encourage people to spend less and invest more, while lower interest rate would encourage people to spend more and invest less.
Theories of imperfect competition are well within the scope and tradition of the marginalists of neoclassical school. Imperfect competition arises because of gaps in the economic theory of pure competition and monopoly models, and because the theory of pure competition is becoming increasingly untenable. Pure competition was fully applied to agriculture, but that theory became less appropriate due to changing times. The neoclassical theory of pure competition has less direct applicability to modern industrial production and trade than to agriculture. The methodology of the theory's imperfect competition discussed in these chapters show all the characteristics of the neoclassical school. Related to marginalism and the abstract, deductive and subjective approach of macroeconomics, and its economy assumes a rational, static, and momentarily unchanging world that tends toward equilibrium. Pure competition as a goal has been replaced by workable competition, which represents a compromise between pure competition and oligopoly. Monopolies is price can rise above the competitive equilibrium level to produce economic profits in the long run. Theories related to the release from pure competition have been influential in creating a greater willingness among economists to accept stronger government, antitrust policies, and government regulations about profit utility monopoly. This is Piero Sraffa, born in 1898 and lived until 1983. Piero Sraffa was an Italian economist who made significant contributions to economic theory. He studied under Alfred Marshall and later became a professor at the University of Cambridge. Sraffa is the best known for his influential work, Production of Commodities by Means of Commodities, published in 1960. Sraffa's work had a profound impact on economic thought, particularly in the areas of classical and neoclassical economics. His critique of neoclassical theory and his reinterpretation of classical political economy, particularly the work of David Ricardo, sparked a revival of interest in classical economic theory. In addition to his academic contributions, Sraffa played a key role in the development of theory of imperfect competition. His early work was within the methodological tradition of neoclassicism and was seminal in generating the emerging critique of the theory of pure competition. Overall, Piero Sraffa was a significant figure in this history of economic thought, known for his contributions to classical and neoclassical economics, as well as his influence on the development of imperfect competition theory. Piero Sraffa's view on the expansion of output being limited due to monopoly pricing are rooted in his analysis of imperfect competition and implications for market behavior and economic outcomes. In the context of imperfect competition, Sraffa argued that firms with market power, such as monopolies and oligopolies, have the ability to influence prices and restrict output to maximize their profits. Unlike in perfectly competitive markets, where firms are price takers and output is determined by market forces, in imperfectly competitive markets, firms can restrict output to drive up price and increase their profits. Sraffa's analysis suggests that under monopoly pricing, firms may choose to produce at a level that maximize their profits. Even if there is potential for greater output, this behavior can lead to underproduction and inefficiency in resource allocation, as the monopolistic firm does not produce at the level that would be socially optimal. Furthermore, Sraffa's work highlighted that potential negative effect of monopoly pricing on consumer welfare, as higher prices resulting from restricted output can lead to reduced consumer surplus and overall economic welfare. Overall, Sraffa's view on the limitation of output expansion due to monopoly pricing underscore the importance of understanding the behavior of firms in imperfectly competitive markets and the implications of economic efficiency and welfare. His analysis contribute to the broader understanding of market structures and the impact of market power on output level and pricing. Sraffa's analysis aligns with the concept of monopolistic competition, where firms produce similar but differentiate products, giving them some degree of market power. This differentiation allows firms to have a degree of control over their price and give them a certain level of monopoly power within their specific market segment. The idea that firms enjoy special advantage in their protected segment of the market reflects the notion that, due to product differentiation, consumers may perceive certain products as unique or superior, allowing firms to have some control over their prices without losing all of their customers and competitors. This differentiation creates a situation where firms can face a downward sloping demand curve, as they can adjust their price and still retain a portion of their customer base. Sraffa's observation that firms would not lose all of their business if they raise prices, nor take away all of their rivals' business if they lowered the prices, underscores the nuanced nature of competition in markets with differentiated products. This behavior leads to a demand curve that slopes down and to the right, reflecting the responsiveness of consumers to change in prices within the differentiated product market.
Hi, my name is Adi and I will be talking about the Gadway stage of Lim. Riwayat family was born in 1899 and died in 1927. He was born in Lapointe, Washington. He received his undergraduate degree from the University of Iowa and got his doctorate at Harvard, where he later became a professor. He published The Theory of Monopolistic Competition in 1933. This important book views the previously separate theories of monopoly and competition, and it sought to explain a range of market situations that may be purely competitive or totally monopolistic. Chamberlain held that most market prices are actually determined by both monopolistic and competitive elements. Monopolistic competition is a type of market structure where there are many firms, each producing a slightly different product. Product differentiation means that each company's goods or services have some noticeable differences that set them apart from those of other companies. In this market structure, each company faces a downward sloping demand curve. This means that as a company raises its prices, it sells fewer products, and as it lower prices, it sells more. For each company, the goal is to maximize the profit. This happens at the point where the marginal cost curve intersects with the marginal revenue curve. As long as making one more unit adds more to the total revenue than it does to total cost, it's profitable to produce more. Monopoly profit in the short run and normal profit in the long run. In the long run, with free entry, each firm in monopolistic competition reaches equilibrium when its total revenue just equals its total cost, or when average revenue equals to average cost. At this point, the firm is said to earn only a normal profit, which is the minimum profit needed to keep the business running. So for the diagram in the monopolistic competition, we can see that in the short run, the firm acts as a monopoly, facing a downward sloping demand curve because lowering prices is necessary to increase the revenue. The steeper marginal revenue curve reflects the need to reduce price to sell more units. Profit maximization occurs at the intersection of the marginal revenue and marginal cost curve. Above normal profit results from the situation where marginal revenue surpasses average total cost. And in the long run, as other firms recognize the profit potential in this market with easy entry, their influx causes existing firms to experience a reduction in their demand curve. This in turn leads to a further decrease in the marginal revenue curve. Consequently, only normal profit is achieved, as the marginal revenue curves align closely with the average total curve in this competitive environment. According to Chamberlain and other economists, said that pure competition is thought to lead to a larger output, efficiency, and lower prices. But this conclusion needs a few qualifications. So the first is that Chamberlain conclusions are based on the assumption that cost curves are the same in both pure and monopolistic competition. However, this assumption may not hold in reality. In industries like steel production, assuming pure competition could lead to 1,000 of small firms, each operating at a small scale. This could result in higher prices and less efficiency compared to a scenario where some firms enjoy monopolistic power and operate at larger, more efficient scale. Also, contemporary economists highlight that world of pure competition with standardized product might lack variety. Monopolistic competition allow for variation of each product, catering to diverse consumer tastes. For example, instead of standardized hamburger, consumers have numerous choices, and different people prefer different variations. In essence, while pure competition is theorized to result in a larger output and lower prices, in practice, assumptions about uniform cost curve and the absence of economy of scale might not hold. Monopolistic competition, despite potential downsides, offer benefits associated with product variety and catering to diverse consumer preferences.
Next, I will talk about Jawan Robinson. Jawan Robinson was born in 1903 and died at the age of 80. Robinson was a long-time professor of economics at Cambridge University and also a student of Alfred Marshall. The book, The Economics of Imperfect Competition, was published a few months after Chamberlain's. In 1933, Robinson expanded her activities and made important contributions in Keynesian and post-Keynesian economic development, and international trade. In addition to her contribution, Robinson offered a significant critique of Marxist economy. In concept of monopolistic competition, Robinson added the idea of monopsony, a situation in which there is either a single buyer in a market or a group of buyers acting as one. She analyzed the outcome of monopsony, buying power in product and resource markets. In product market monopsony, there are many buyers of a commodity. Their aggregate demand curve slopes downward and to the right because it is based on marginal utility. So the more unit of a good person acquires, the lower is marginal utility and the less for an additional unit. However, if there is only a single buyer or all the buyers form an agreement to act together, we can assume that the market demand curve remain unaltered. We can also assume that the supply curve remain unchanged because it indicates how much all the sellers are together to offer at each price. The supply price is based on the cost of producing each quantity, and this cost does not change in the presence of monopsony. Therefore, Robinson also stated two generalizations. The first one is under the pure competition, the buyer will purchase successive unit of good at any one time to the point where the price is equal to marginal utility. The second one is under monopsony. The buyer will regulate purchase in such a way that the marginal cost is equal to marginal utility. From the table, first we consider as pure competition among buyers. Suppose the market price of some hypothetical product X is $4. No single buyer can influence the price regardless of the amount that he purchased. We assume that the marginal utility data in column 5 is for the particular consumer who buys only this good. At any one time, ownership of the first unit of the product provides the consumer $7 of marginal utility. The second unit provides $6, the third unit provides $5, and the fourth unit provides $4. At the market price of $4, the consumer will buy 4 units of the product. He will buy unit of the product up to the point where the price is equal to the marginal utility. Next, we assuming that firms can increase the production of this product only under condition of increasing costs. The more unit our consumer wish to buy, the higher will be the price. As we can see, he can buy 1 unit of X for $1, but 2 units would cost him $2 each, for a total cost of $4. So that the marginal cost to him of the second unit is $3 rather than $2. This $3 marginal cost, however, is less than the marginal utility of the second unit. Therefore, the person will choose to buy it, and then we can observe that the consumer will decide to buy 3 units of the product because the marginal cost is equal to marginal utility. As a conclusion, under normal condition of an upward sloping product supply curve, the monopsonist will purchase fewer units of a product than would competitive buyer will pay a lower than competitive price. The monopsonist can control the product price by adjusting the quantity of purchase, like a monopolistic seller can control the same price by adjusting the level of output. Robinson pointed out that in the presence of perfectly elastic supply curve, marginal cost and average cost of production are equal to the supply price will be constant, and the quantity purchased under monopsony will be the same as under pure competition. If an industry is working under a diminishing supply price, the marginal cost of the monopsonist will less than the price of commodity. She will buy more of the product for pure competitors. Robinson also analyzed monopsony in the market for resources using the labor market as an illustration. Following Marshall approach, Robinson declared that an employer should run labor demand curve is its marginal revenue product curve. The monopsonistic employer faces a marginal wage cost curve that lies above the market supply curve. To maximize its profit, it restricts its hiring in order to pay a lower than competitive wage. According to Robinson, monopsonistic exploitation is an R. The difference between marginal revenue product MRP and the monopsony wage. When there is monopoly and monopolistic competition in the product market, the value of the marginal product exceeds the MRP, and monopolistic exploitation is the end. The labor supply curve facing a monopsonist slope upward to the right because the monopsonist is the only employer of a particular type of labor. This curve indicates the average wage cost because it shows us the wage rate that must be paid per worker to attract a particular number of workers. Under monopsony, the marginal wage cost is the extra cost associated with employing one more worker to exceed the average wage cost or wage rate. The monopsonist must increase the wage rate to attract additional workers away from alternative employment, household activity, or leisure, and it must pay higher wage to all the workers. The extra cost of employing an additional worker is more than the wage rate paid to the worker. It also includes the extra wage paid to workers who could have been attracted at a lower wage rate. So from this figure, how many workers will the monopsonist represented employ is A, because this is the number at which the marginal revenue product of the last worker employed just equal the marginal wage cost. If MRP were greater than MWC, it would be profitable for the firm to hire more workers. But if MRP were less than MWC, the employer could add to his profits by reducing employment. Monopsony shown in this figure will pay a rate of L because it can attract profit maximizing number of employees. As a conclusion for this model, the first is a labor market monopolist will employ fewer workers that would be hired by employers competing with one another for workers. The monopolist will reduce employment to avoid driving up the wage that he must pay to all the workers. Second, under monopoly, the worker is exploited. Robinson cited one definition of exploitation of labor as a factor of production being employed at a wage that is less than the marginal revenue product. If the market of labor is perfect, each employer can hire all the labor needed at the market wage. The marginal wage cost of labor to the individual employer is equal to the wage rate. The employer will be impelled by self-interest to hire workers up to the point where the marginal revenue product is equal to the workers' wage rate. Exploitation of labor under this definition is normally does not occur in a competitive labor market.
So now I'll be talking about the exploitation. In a monopoly where a company is the only seller, it faces a challenge. If it wants to sell more, it has to lower the price of its product. This lowering of the price happens because the company is dealing with a downward sloping product demand curve. So in a simple term, as it sells more, it needs to drop the price to entice the buyers. So the key point is that when a company lowers the price to sell more, the extra money it makes for selling one more item, which is the marginal revenue, is less than the original price of the item. Now, if the company hires more workers and produces more goods to sell, the extra money it makes from selling those additional goods is less than what it would be in a situation without monopoly. So this difference is where the company doesn't get the full price for each extra item sold contributes to what Joan Robinson calls the exploitation. This is the idea that the company benefits more than it pays when it hires additional workers. So the total exploitation TR, total exploitation of labor TR, is a measure that includes two things. NR, which is the exploitation due to the company having a lot of power in the job market or monopoly, and TN, which is the exploitation resulting from the company having a monopoly or facing imperfect competition when selling its product. So in simple terms, this explanation is about how when a company has a lot of control, like a monopoly, it may pay the workers the full value of what they produce because it has to lower the prices in order to sell more. Total exploitation measures the impact on workers' pay, including the influence of both the job market monopoly and the product market monopoly or imperfect competition. So there are a few remedies that Joan Robinson suggested in order to control the exploitation. So for the under monopoly, to address the exploitation of labor under the monopoly, Robinson suggests that a trade union or a trade board imposing a minimum wage on the industry. With a minimum wage, the supply of labor becomes perfectly elastic at the imposed wage rate, making the marginal wage cost of labor identical to the average wage cost. For the under monopoly, to eliminate exploitation under monopoly, the selling price will need to be controlled to equal the marginal and average cost. And lastly, for eliminating exploitation under monopoly competition, the markets will need to become perfect or purely competitive. In a perfect market, firms will expand and reaching a new equilibrium where profits are normal, firms are at optimal size, costs are lower, and the commodity price will fall. So there are a few criticisms towards the Robinson exploitation analysis. The first one is by the Chamberlain itself, which the first point is about the distribution theory critique. Chamberlain criticized Robinson's analysis of exploitation particularly her distribution theory. He argued that under monopolistic competition, all factors, not just the label, receive less than the value of the marginal product. And the next one is the exploitation under monopolistic competition. Chamberlain's view suggests that under monopolistic competition, all factors are exploited. To avoid the charge of exploitation, employers will supposedly just have to go into bankruptcy. And next is the Robinson's self-criticism and reflection. So the first point is the nature of the economy of imperfect competition. 2 decades after the publication of her book, Robinson critiqued the type of economic theorizing she had contributed to. She referred to the economy of imperfect competition as a scholastic book, primarily focused on analyzing textbook slogans and questions from 20 years prior. The next one is the obstacle to practical implementation. Robinson acknowledged obstacle to practically implementing the theoretical construct. Relevant data were not readily available, and computational limitation will hinder the timely implementation of the right policies. The third one is the challenge of dealing with time. Robinson identified a weakness in her approach and the broader economic theory: failure to deal with time. She argued that the economic phenomena do not move in the plane depicted in the price quantity diagram, emphasizing the importance of understanding the temporal aspect of economic dynamics. And lastly, the dynamic and realistic analysis. Robinson's later work shifted away from her early macroeconomic theories. She explored other economic fields in an attempt to develop a more dynamic and realistic analysis of the economic world. So, to conclude that from the previous discussion, we can see that Fisher and Witzel has the greater interest in the role of money in the economy, while Chamberlain and Robinson has extended the marginal analysis to market structure. So, in terms of the contribution in the monetary economics, Witzel has contributed to the role of the interest rate, saving investment approach, and also the contribution of government and control and central bank. While for the Fisher, he has contributed to the theory of interest, monetary policy, and also the quantitative theory of money. And lastly, the contribution for the imperfect competition, Chamberlain contributed to the theory of monopolistic competition, and Robinson has contributed to the theory of monopoly.